So in today's video, other than my shaved beard, we've got to talk about scene placement and how we're going to manipulate the building of this structure to look a little bit different. Because one thing I have a problem with is making model railroad scenes that are really square. You're watching Essentially Wood, a show about...
Oh, come on. It's just a show about everything you need to know about building with wood.
Like, the only time you ever really see something square in the city is if you're looking at a building or a downtown city block. Usually downtown city blocks are nice and square, so they can fit their nice and square buildings everywhere. Well, we're building a waterfront, and we might attach this waterfront to my other module that I made last year. And that means that I want to have properties that are bumping up together. I want to have two properties that had a space in between it, and the property in between it just went, oh, we're gonna sell this land, and a piece of property was built in there, whether it fit or not. And that's the thing that I'm looking for in my scene with our shipyard at Foss Landing. Now I have another kit that I want to put into this. We have Builders in Scale, the Tide Wharf kit, or the Wharf kit, I don't know. I've got most of the parts for it. I bought two of these kits off of eBay. Well, the first kit was the box and the instructions. And then the second kit was supposed to be the complete kit, but it came missing all the metal details on the kit. So I've got all the laser cut wood, I've got the plans, I've got the templates, I've got a number of pieces that are going to help me get this kit together, but I'm going to be missing the windows and doors, which I might have to substitute with some Grant Line stuff, or see if the gentleman at Builders in Scale is kind enough to sell me some more of those parts. Well, I have to put together the budget to buy those parts too, so that ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Today's video is brought to you by Helicon Focus. Helicon Focus is the photo stacker that makes the most clear photographs that you could ever make. To get 20% off a lifetime license of Helicon Focus, go to modelersguild.com/HF. And we thank Helicon Focus for their support of our show. Now, before we move any further, I want to explain what I mean by not having this scene square, because the difference I'm talking about is a lot more subtle than what you may be thinking. Where you might think that I'm talking about changing the square to an extreme trapezoid, I'm talking about making it into a slight trapezoid just to cut the edges off, just to round these edges off. I don't want a square. That's just the bottom line. Now, if we take our image and rotate it 90 degrees, we start to be able to picture what I'm talking about here. And I'm just gonna extend the canvas here so that I can draw it out alongside the photo to kind of give you a picture of what I'm looking for. Now, we're coming in from the other module, and we're gonna have to have our building on a slight angle, just a slight trapezoid. We're not working with the square, and just like in the photo, we're gonna have the boat beside the main shipyard building, and then our wood supply route is going to be beside the boat. See, it's still kind of square at the end. However, our trapezoid's going to be framed by the waterfront that's going to be an off angle, and our wood supply route, which is going to be crossing through the scene to just give it a little bit of shape and to fly off into nowhere. And that way we can take our support buildings like our log mill, our sawmill, and our supply hardware shed on either side of the logging track along the main supply route. And what I'm doing by doing this is I'm opening up the scene to a major point of super detailing. Along the rails is a great spot for human activity, and we're gonna design that into this diorama. I have often said model railroading should be a course in school, and if I had my way, model railroad photography would be one of those skills taught in that class. Thankfully, my friend Bob Boudreau has covered all this stuff for you on his website. Bob's website covers all aspects of photography, from point-and-shoot cameras to DSLRs. Bob's photography has been part of many contests in the model railroad press, and Bob's contest-winning tricks can be found on this website, so check it out. In last week's video, I said this week we'd be building the boat. And the truth is, I did build the boat in the past week, but I figured before we got into building the boat, we should really get this scenery placement thing down pat before I start showing the boat off, because if anybody's building along with me on this project, I think it is important to guide you in a way that I think will make your project turn out the best and be most efficient. Because remember, we did pay $320 on this kit. I went down to my local hardware store and grabbed a sheet of hardboard, but it is also called HDF and Masonite. Cut it into a small chunk. I get my boards, they're 2 foot by 4 foot standard sizes at the hardware store, and it's about $2. It's no big deal just to make a little sample. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little scene here that is kind of like a prototype, something that we can test the scene on, and if it works, we can put this into the final scene. Or if it doesn't work, we can scrap it and do it the way it should be done on the final scene. You know, this little board here maybe costs $3, and that's a cost I can handle to test and make sure that this scene looks just as good as I want it to. Now, I know it doesn't look like much right now. It's a very small portion of the scene itself, and it can only really fit the main shipyard building on it itself. So I'm going to use a little piece of scrap balsa wood that I have, and we're going to make a break wall on for underneath the dock, and we're going to decorate this whole scene fully. We're going to go like crazy. I'm going to do all the crazy little ideas that I have. I'm going to go to the forest. I'm going to grab some moss. We're going to put that down to seaweed and stuff. We're just going to try everything. I'm going to take some skewers. I'm going to try different ways of putting what's on the... A few minutes later. Barnacles. I knew it was something barnacles. So we're going to try everything. We're going to put different styles of barnacles on the bottom of the pilings and have seaweed in the water, the whole rigmarole. And I thought that this was more important to show you before we started into the boat, because how we're going to finish the boat off is totally going to have to do with how we finish off the waterfront. Oh, a tip if you're using balsa wood and trying to glue it in like a dummy, use some crazy glue to make sure it stays in place. I have been sharing my scale modeling experiences on YouTube free of charge for over 2 years now. In that time, I've invested a lot of time and money into this project. Projects like these need funding to grow, and I'm asking for your help. Patreon.com/Preperation. Ron Perry. Okay, so we're not going to finish this little mini section today. We're just going to get it to a point where we can have it grow in our mind's eye. And that starts with, I don't want to have a watercolor. I want to have a clean slate. So I'm going to use charcoal color that I made, and it's not any real gray color. It's just a combination of colors to get the kind of grimy black color I was looking for. I haven't really achieved it yet, but it's good enough. So I'm just going to cover up the bottom while leaving some slight lines where the pilings are going to go on my bench. This isn't the finished look. This is the bottom layer. Next, I made some rocks from a Woodland Scenics mold a few years ago, and they've been sitting in my toolbox forever, just screaming, "Ron, put me in a project, please put me in a project, Ron." So we're going to try them out here, and I'm going to use my Weld Bond glue to glue them down, because I can, if at a later date I want to use them on another project, all I have to use is a hot air gun to make them come off. Use a pair of tweezers to grab onto them, and then use the hot air gun to heat up the glue or the portion that is glued, and it'll come off. This is a technique that can be done for a lot of gluing processes. Try it out. Now, while the glue was drying, I couldn't wait. I had to add some alcohol, and then ink and alcohol stain, and then I added some Depot Buff. Why Depot Buff? Well, what I'm interested in here is bringing out a lot of yellows and fall colors. Like, I love fall scenery in model form. It's beautiful. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I want to go real earthy. And the other thing is I want to try out these water-soluble oil paints. And those are neat because you can use something like turpentine to really thin them out and really weather your models in a great way. Rolling stock, people who weather rolling stock and engines have been using this for a long time. And I got these paints for the weathering and rolling stock, but while I was there, I grabbed some green because I knew that I wanted to try this at some time, and the time is now, guys and girls. Now, I recognize that everything looks really splotchy right now, and that it doesn't really look too realistic, but what I'm trying to do here is a bunch of different things at once, and the way they're going to meld together is over time they are going to come together with more paints, and the paints that I'm going to add are all thinned with alcohol so that they're slightly translucent, so that under layers show through to upper layers and everything marries and mingles together. Now, I don't know if turpentine is the product you should use to thin your water-soluble oil paints, but I know it works, and that's what I'm using. If there's another product out there, I'm not so experienced on this stuff, and I'm not worried to admit it. Next, the oil paint we ran along the bottom of the break wall, it really is supposed to be concentrated at the bottom, but the whole wall's gonna get some green. So that's why I placed it only at the bottom, so that the concentration could be more there, and I rode the oil paints up the wall with my turpentine. Almost forgot it there. I do this stuff unscripted, guys. This is the real me. When you hear me talking about this stuff, it's not something I've wrote out and sent to the editor to be fixed. This is all me. So for good or bad, you're getting the real deal. Now, while I'm pulling my green up the wall and giving the entire wall a green tinge or a hue, we're going to be coming back later with the colors that are going to be streaming down from the wall top. And those are going to be slightly different. Sure, there's going to be a bit of green coming down from the top, but there's also going to be a rust and a burnt umber, brown colors, you know, earth coming down the wall, so that there's texture underneath. Because even then, after that, we're going to have moss on the wall. Or we're going to try to put moss on the wall. So in our next scenery video, I don't know what we're going to call this. Well, you'll see it in the title at the beginning of the show. When I figure it out, we'll put it in there. But when we get to part 2, we're really going to dial in on this scene by adding all those extra layers that I just mentioned. And I don't know, I'm kind of excited about this part. This is the part that I really like. The part where you jump off of the trail without an instruction manual and do things by yourself, on your own, at the whim of your fancy. That's what I love about modeling, and that's what I'm hopefully going to share with you in this series. Thank you for watching. So, if you're that type of person to, you know, give your waiter a tip because they did good service for you, well, I'm an artist asking for you to tip my good service here. And if you're happy with the modeling that you see in these videos, if you've watched maybe 4 or 5 of them, consider chipping in $1, $5, $10 on Patreon. I could sure use the you know, this wharf kit would be on the bench right now if we had those windows and doors, and it's gonna cost $60. So 60 people contribute $1. If 30 people contribute $2, maybe 15 people contribute $4. You know, you see how it works? So, patreon.com/Ron Perry. Yeah, and I know it's pretty trendy to close out your videos by dropping the mic, but my artesian microphone would never make the fall. So, I guess there's only one way to close this out, hey?
On the road, out of the city, gonna leave my past behind. I will stand, take no pity.